To discuss this further, we have former DBM Secretary Butch Abad. He also was part of the crafting of that position paper of the Ateneo School of Government and Flood Control Projects. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Secretary.
Magandang umaga, Gretchen.
Okay, the scope of the data in that position paper is 10 years, correct? Same as the scope of ICI.
Yes. We looked at not just the present but even the past for purposes of getting a comparison and looking at the context of the problem.
So 2015 po ito onwards. Hindi po kasama yung Pinoy administration, just to be clear.
Well, we can also include that, but you know.
Okay, just to put the proper context. Okay, the flood control in 10 years, if you take a look at the numbers that you released, went from 2% to 4%. Does that strike you as a lot?
Well, that's almost a trillion pesos. And right now, over the past 3 or 4 years, it already constitutes about 22% of the infra budget of the DPWH. So it's a huge chunk of our infra budget today.
That goes to the DPWH. And how much have budgets grown on a per day basis for the offices of the President, the Vice President, Congress, and the Senate?
Well, they have grown very significantly. And in fact, all the offices benefited from the insertions that were taken from the regular programs and projects of the President. And what we presented there is really the amount of tax money that we all put together to assist the policymakers or the legislators to become effective and productive legislators. So we should be able to get something from our investments in making sure that our institutions work better. But looking at those numbers, many would feel disappointed because of what we're hearing today about all the irregularities that are happening.
Okay, just to cite what is in that document that you released, now, from 2016 to 2025, there was a 461% increase in the budget of the Office of the President, a 47% increase for the Office of the Vice President, a 275% increase for the Office of the Senate, and 280% increase naman for the House of Representatives. I mean, what could explain that? Is it right to interpret this as over the top, or is there a way to somehow rationalize the increase?
Well, that is something that those institutions, particularly their leaders, will have to explain to the people because they are our representatives. And if we are investing that much money, increasing significantly over the years, we should be getting good results, Gretchen, di ba? But if we are getting all of these shocking corruption issues, then really we do have to look at those amounts that we have invested in those institutions.
At kayo ho ay dating naging Secretary ng Department of Budget and Management. What was the budget like back then for these offices? Siguro let's zone in on the Office of the President. It now has a budget of 43 million per day. Saan po ba nagagamit yung ganung budget?
Well, the Office of the President, of course, does a lot of important function for the country. It's principally in charge of directing the development priorities of our country. And of course, he travels a lot to raise the funds for our project and also to meet with world leaders. So we should look at it in that context and see if what is provided for in the budget is appropriate for those types of functions. And yes, Gretchen.
Oo. But what was it like during your time as Secretary of DBM?
Well, it was much less, about half of what is now being provided for in those institutions. Uh, so the question is that increase justifiable? And our people, will have to be told why those increases were made. Otherwise, they will feel that the jumps in the budgets were too high and do not justify the kind of work that we are getting, the kind of results that we are getting today.
And with these realignments to these offices, there were, of course, losers of that budget. According to your research, who were the biggest losers here?
Well, unfortunately, for example, many of those agencies that provide assistance to the poor, for example, this year, 2025, the total subsidy that PhilHealth should have received, which is about 74.4 billion pesos for 2025, that was in the National Expenditure Program or the President's budget, was zero. So nothing was left of the PhilHealth subsidy for year 2025. And the PhilHealth subsidy goes to informal premiums. Since the poor cannot pay premiums to enjoy PhilHealth benefits, then it is the government that subsidizes it. And that subsidy comes from the 74.4 billion. Secondly, the increased benefits and the lowering of premiums may also come from the subsidy. But now that the premiums are gone, then the possibility of increasing the services and lowering the premiums paid by the formal premium payers will no longer be possible. And finally, investments for PhilHealth so that it is able to provide services in the future have also been zeroed out, so there is no longer that possibility. The 2025 GA, for example, also reduces by 50 billion the four-piece program, the conditional cash transfer program, which is the flagship poverty reduction program of government. So if you remove 50 billion and transfer it to projects like AKAP, AX, or which are really cash giveaways, and these are not rules-based programs, meaning they don't identify who the beneficiaries are. They don't set conditions so that these beneficiaries can take advantage of these benefits, and they don't make regular reportorial requirements so that we know what is happening to those funds. Then what happens then is instead of strengthening our poverty reduction efforts, we weaken it. There is also in 2024, for example, Gretchen, 224 billions of foreign assisted projects. These are approved loans already and government counterpart, which are being coursed through the appropriations process because they have to be authorized. About 157 billion of those foreign assisted projects, mostly from the Department of Transportation, were also taken away. Now, what happens now to those strategic high impact projects? That is the question that is being raised by many people. So those are, by way of example, what had been taken away and transferred somewhere else to projects like flood control, cash giveaways, and all sorts of other projects that in fact do not impact to the benefit of our people, but instead are being stolen away or used for patronage purposes.
Good findings there. No, I'm just, putting it all together and the way that you were able to put that side by side. But I guess there are many questions here about who is accountable. For one, what power does the president have to cut the fat in this budget? Dahil nga po, his office has power to veto. And he has had vetoed it before, particularly yung DPWH last year, 26 billion yung tinanggal niya dun sa DPWH budget. 168 billion ang tinanggal niya sa unprogrammed appropriations. I mean, isn't he capable of seeing all of this and where the money is actually now being directed?
Well, if it had only happened once, Gretchen, then you could say, baka natutulog lang sa pansitan yung mga executive heads, no? But since this happened in that magnitude, and more than once, in fact, in 2023, 2024, and 2025, it's hard to believe that the department heads would not have been able to find this out. And in fact, along the way, there could have been many instances where this could have been stopped if the president had been informed about it. For example, when this was being discussed in the bicameral conference committee, and before it was sent to both chambers for ratification, the president could have been informed and that could have been stopped. Or when the proposed GAA was submitted to the president for his approval and signature, the executive, the department heads, could have compared the national expenditure program to the proposed GAA. And there, they would have been able to see the big difference between what was approved as the president's budget and then what was in the proposed GAA. And the president would have vetoed many of these items, even as much as not just 26 billion, but as much as 400 billion. And the money from the vetoed items would then go to the general fund of the National Treasury. And what the president can do is submit a new, or what is called a special appropriation to Congress, so that those vetoed funds can in fact be allocated to the appropriate projects that the president finds important for his administration. Those could have been done.
What is the role of the DBM here? We have a quote here from the DBM Secretary. Sabi niya, they submitted 700 pages with more than 15,000 line items referring to the DPWH. We don't have a single engineer in our office, so we acted in good faith. What would you say to that? Ano ang papel ng DBM dito? Hindi ba parang sila yung dapat unang magsala po nitong mga proposal ng budget?
Tama ka doon, Gretchen. The first agency that is who should be able to detect huge changes in the budget would have been the Department of Budget and Management. It's not so much knowing or having the technical capacity like the engineering skills to find out if these projects were the appropriate projects to be undertaken by the government. But just looking at the numbers, for example, because if you look at the summary of the bicameral conference committee, you will see the huge amounts of decreases in the president's budget, and then the diversions made out of the president's budget. Yun pa lang should be a signal for the department to say, stop muna tayo. Let's not ratify that. We want to look at it. And they would have been able to see the huge amounts involved. Just the amounts and where they were taken, that is possible to determine, Gretchen.
Secretary, I'm sorry we don't have a lot of time, but just as a final question, you called on the ICI to include more officials in their investigation. Do you feel there are people being shielded in the probe in both both houses of Congress? Meron pa po ba kayong gustong marinig na hindi pa natatawag?
Well, I don't want to preempt the ICI, but I think chairs and the vice chairs of the Committee on Appropriation, as well as the Finance Committee of the Senate, as well as the heads of the institutions, the Speaker and the Senate President, should be asked to shed light on why these huge cuts and huge diversions were made. For us to know, because we have no idea where these funds were taken, and they are, as I said, hundreds of billions, totaling about 1.45 trillion in 3 years, and where they were diverted or inserted. Because the people have a right to know, because right now, we don't have the information. And we would like them to make public the bicameral conference reports in 2023, 2024, and 2025, because those are important leads to finding out answers to those questions.
And apart from the House Speaker, you also called on Senate President Cheese Escudero as well as members of the Appropriations Committee or the small committee, pati na rin po dun sa technical staff as well as the Executive Secretary. Bakit po si ES?
Hindi, kasi you don't call the president naman to
Okay.
investigation. But,
So he represents the office of the president.
He has a representative, as
Correct.
well as the other department heads, can face the ICI so that we can hear their explanation. Because right now, as I said, we're not hearing anything. And as Senator Ping Lacson said, the original sin happened in the bicameral conference committee. That's where the huge cuts were made, and that's where that made possible the huge insertions in the budget.
And the final person you're calling on is the Commission on Audit, which we haven't heard from still, and we are waiting as they are the other huge agency involved here. But the way that this paper has been written, very strongly worded. It does not skip a beat when it says that these officials have been complicit in corruption. So thank you so much for explaining that to us. We'll probably have you on our other shows for a longer time. But maraming salamat for joining us this morning right here on Morning Matters. We have former DBM Secretary Butch Abad who spoke to us on the latest position paper of the Ateneo School of Government.
Salamat, Gretchen. Thank you.